What's going on, George Mason University? Welcome back inside the Pressbox. I'm Nathan LaPierre.
And I'm Brenton Randolph.
And as you can see, we have some missing people here today. DeMonte Shaw and Matt Newman couldn't make it, but you know our motto inside the Pressbox here, press on. So that's exactly what we're going to do, because the sports world never sleeps. So we keep bringing you the news. All right, so let's start off with some Mason sports. We've got a resident volleyball analyst here. Brenton, you want to kick that off?
Oh yeah, the resident volleyball analyst. Well, today we have a matchup. Women's volleyball will be playing Fordham University, and it'll be the opening game for Atlantic 10 Conference play, which for both teams is probably the most important thing of the season, because all the games up to this probably just amount to a warm-up, because neither one of them was going to get an at-large bid. So winning the conference is definitely the most important thing for both of these teams. George Mason is 4-9, so we're going to work to improve on that a little bit, because we're going up against Fordham and they're 0-13, so we should be able to win that game.
Yep, and also, of course, we always cover the Mason soccer team because we're doing so well last couple of years. As of the shooting of this episode, we're ranked 20th. We're 6-0-1. We finally had a tie against Seton Hall, but still one of the best teams in the country. We've got a lot of local games coming up. We have UMBC, Navy, VCU, and UVA, which is number 2 in the nation, and that will be a home game. So that's definitely one you want to check out coming up in the future. So definitely check that out.
Right, the stadium should be packed for that one.
Yep, it should be. We want to have completely no open seats. So stay tuned for that one. Shout outs to the soccer team for being one of the best teams in the nation. All right, so now let's move into pro sports. Obviously, the big news around the sports nation recently, baseball, Derek Jeter, his retirement, his whole farewell ceremony, last home game against the Baltimore Orioles, and he kicked it off or finished it off in what a lot of people would say was a fitting fashion with that walk-off RBI single. So you want to talk about that a bit?
Oh yeah, definitely. Derek Jeter, he's been regarded as probably one of the most clutch players of this generation, if not possibly of all time, but certainly this generation. And he's just been getting all the accolades, like the whole farewell tour, and it's probably just like a perfect ending. Hollywood couldn't have scripted a better ending for Derek Jeter, even though it didn't help them make the playoffs. It was a nice thing for a bunch of Yankees fans and really any fans of baseball just to remember Derek Jeter by.
And I want to touch on that real quick. You mentioned this whole farewell tour and not making the playoffs. How do you feel about this whole thing that's been going on the entire season, this whole farewell entire year that he's been getting? How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's all right. It's probably been a little bit dragged out, because every single team, every time he goes on the road, he's getting something. He's getting either a seat from the stadium or what else did he get? A paddleboard or something like that.
Yeah,
and he's gotten so much.
Yeah, and it's, I am not a Yankees fan. I'm a Red Sox fan, so I do not like the Yankees, but I definitely respect Derek Jeter in his career. At the same time, I do have this sort of feeling that the farewell tour was somewhat of a distraction to the team. The Yankees, up until the last week or so, were still trying to claw their way into a playoff spot, and they're spending all this time and energy celebrating his career, which, I understand why you want to do that, but at the same time, you never want to put an individual player's interests over that of the team. And to Derek Jeter's credit, I don't think he ever wanted that, and he was never trying to bring attention to himself, but because he's been doing that throughout his career and he's such a respected player, they're automatically going to try to celebrate his career.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think it was a distraction, and you look at his numbers this year, obviously we understand he's getting towards the end of his career, but not good numbers, mediocre batting average, didn't hit for much power. He was rated as a below an average player this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The other funny thing about it is just all the attention he's gotten from the farewell tour. You would have thought he would get inducted into the Hall of Fame tomorrow.
Right.
But which in reality, even if as hard as it is to get into the MLB Hall of Fame, if you actually look at all the numbers, even through the course of his career, he might not even be first ballot. Not sure, but
I would expect him to be, actually, because just because of the whole respect, the regard he's held in the baseball world. I mean, when you think of this whole era of baseball we've grown up in,
The steroid,
Derek Jeter is one of the first names you think of automatically. So
he would be just because of the respect thing. But if you actually like crunched out the numbers, he might not be. It would be a little bit more questionable, I feel like. But I still think he'll probably get in for sure. But like first ballot, possibly. Not as sure.
I think he's first ballot, but we'll see. It is very difficult to make it in, so no doubt about that. So, Mariano Rivera just left.
Yeah.
This year, Derek Jeter's leaving.
Yeah.
Who's the new face of the franchise of the Yankees?
Oh, man.
Do we know? I mean,
I'm not even
probably
sure.
the most famous franchise in baseball. Them and the Red Sox and Dodgers maybe are all out there, but who's the face of the franchise now?
I'm not entirely sure. Is it? Do you think Teixeira?
I don't know if anyone knows. Teixeira, maybe. I mean,
he's the most notable guy that I know right now.
Right, and of course you had, a few years ago maybe you could have put A-Rod in that category, but obviously with this whole biogenesis scandal, I think we can all agree he's no longer in any way the face of the franchise, and in fact even Yankees fans starting to realize, he's taking away a lot of money from the team and huge distractions. So
I don't think anybody's a fan of A-Rod at this point in his career.
Right.
So he won't be the guy, I can tell you that much. And he's also at the end of his career as well. Like, he's been in the league almost as long as Jeter has. So.
Right, yeah. And he's near the end of his career. Could it be a pitcher? Could it be CC Sabathia maybe? He had an off year, but he's been with the Yankees for a while. There's promising new career for Masahiro Tanaka. He was injured this year, but who knows? Who knows what the future holds for the Yankees?
It's up in the air right now.
And they haven't made the playoffs the last couple of years, so obviously now that this whole Derek Jeter phenomenon is over, I think they're definitely going to want to turn their focus towards that. Absolutely.
I would expect them to be back soon, though. They're the Yankees. They're never down for long, so that's one thing about the Yankees. They'll always be back.
And one last prediction: do you think Derek Jeter plays during the final series against the Red Sox? Should he? Obviously it's not at home, and you have the great home walk-off, but the Red Sox classic rivalry.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because, that's probably a personal thing. If he wants that hit to be the last thing people remember him by, then he won't play in Boston. But, if he wants to play out the full season, that's his choice as well. And, you can't knock him either way. So, I guess if I was him, I'd play, but you don't have to.
Fair enough. So obviously that's the major story in Major League Baseball right now. Obviously it's football season, so we got to bring you the pro football news. Right before this episode was shot, we had the Redskins-Giants game. A sad day for Redskins fans. Any thoughts on that game?
The first half was bad too, but the second half just got so much worse. Like, Kirk Cousins just came unraveled in the second half. He threw like 4 interceptions, I think it was, and just turnovers was really the killer for the Washington Redskins against the New York Giants on Thursday, because without the turnovers they would have been a lot closer, I can say. I don't know I can't remember exactly how many points the Giants got off turnovers, but I think it was like over 20. Like 24?
It was 17.
17, okay.
Excluding like the last one, so perhaps over 20.
Yeah, it's at least 17 points off of turnovers, which when you give up 17 points off of turnovers, you can basically kiss your chances of winning goodbye. So.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder not to cry myself to sleep about these Redskins games, because it's the same. It's a lot of the same problems that plagued us last year, and I don't know what it is. Our special teams is still bad. We didn't allow a return touchdown this time, but still a lot of big returns. Turnovers, again, can't overstate how significant that is. 5 turnovers, was it? 5 or 6?
At least 5.
It was.
At least 5,
horrible, and you also saw that against the Texans.
Yeah.
So it's really that's just inexcusable. It doesn't matter how much talent you have, not going to win with that many turnovers.
No.
It's just not going to happen. And Eli Manning, normally known for turnovers, to his credit, had a very good game and only had 1 on that freak interception.
Yeah. It was
Larry Donnell burned the Redskins over and over. Huge breakout for him.
He had 3 touchdowns in the first half alone.
In the first half, yep.
In the first half alone, so that's never a good sign. That was like Eli Manning had 4 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown. So.
Yep. And it's starting to we're starting to have this problem again where injuries are starting to mount up. We lost our best offensive lineman last night. Trent Williams sprained his knee, I believe.
Yeah.
Depending on the severity of that could be, a couple weeks to a month. So he'll be gone. D'Angelo Hall, probably the best member of our secondary, out for the season.
Niles Paul.
Our top 2 tight ends, right? Jordan Reed, Niles Paul.
Yeah.
So
the Niles Paul hit was pretty scary.
He was he was out cold. That was a tough hit to watch.
Yeah, but hopefully he comes back. But you don't want to rush it when it comes to concussions.
No,
so.
absolutely not. And I don't think they should.
No.
And Logan Paulson's a fine blocker, and he can catch a few balls too. So
yeah.
I'd be fine with having him in. You never want to rush someone back from a concussion, especially with all these stories coming out from retired players who are now forgetting things.
And they're all suing the NFL for money
because
they're having problems and stuff. But that reminds me. It was 6 turnovers for the Redskins at least because Paulson had a fumble too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the fumble by Cousins and 4 picks.
Yeah.
Cousins, obviously you can see the talent. Some of his throws look excellent. He's not afraid to throw it downfield either. I think this game you finally saw some inexperience, some insecurity that you hadn't really seen before. I feel personally as though he was always knew he was kind of a short-term stopgap while we were trying to get RG3 back, but now he's really going to have a solid portion of the season to himself. So I wonder if the pressure got to him a bit. He's a young player, one of his first starts. I think he can still recover.
Yeah, it's not too late for Kirk Cousins to recover, but I think it was a little bit early for people who were talking about like a quarterback controversy and stuff like that. But it's still RG3 will probably be like coming back. They said like 7 or 8 weeks, I'm sure, and he'll probably come back and he'll start again. But this is still like the jury's still out on Kirk Cousins. We can't judge him off of this game, even though it was a terrible game.
Yeah, I think you made a good point with quick reactions. He has a couple of great games. People are anointing him the starter already. He has one bad game. People are saying he's a bust.
Yeah.
I think this is the first chance for the Redskins as a franchise, for better or for worse. I mean, obviously we're disappointed that Robert Griffin is injured, but for better or for worse, get our first full extended look at Kirk Cousins. And I think you need that whole time frame to really evaluate him as a player. And this is one of the marks of a good player. Can you have a rough game like this and come back and persist and come back and be stronger next week? Now they have a couple of tough matchups coming up. They've got the Seahawks and the Cardinals on the schedule, so that was really rough, and that's why I think this Giants game was really important, apart from also just being a division game.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It could be another long season for the Redskins. That did not leave me feeling well.
Yeah, it could be another tough one just because of all the injuries and stuff like that, because when you come up with so many injuries defensively and offensively, it's going to be hard for the Redskins defense to stop people. Even when they were healthy, it was hard for them to stop people. So when you lose guys like D'Angelo Hall, it just gets even tougher.
Yeah, and of course you saw the strength of schedule difference. The defense looked great, I thought, against the Texans and Jaguars. They really made, the Texans put up 17. One of them was a special teams touchdown.
Right.
So they really only allowed 10, and that was on one huge pass. They got one of the touchdowns. And then against the Jags, they only allowed 10. And again, the only touchdown was on a huge freak play.
Yeah.
But then when you transition into the division, you have Nick Foles and Eli Manning, two established quarterbacks, or Nick Foles talented, Eli Manning established.
They still haven't played Tony Romo and Des Bryant yet either. And the Cowboys' offense is starting to take form.
It's always an interesting team, and I would agree with DeMonte and Matt that they're probably headed for another 8-8 finish. That's always seems how it turns out for them.
It's always a safe bet to pick the Cowboys at 8-8.
Yeah. So. And the Eagles, I think, are definitely the front runners right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and lastly, I guess we just want to wrap up. Bill Simmons has been suspended. This is a major trending sports news story. He let some expletives go in relation to Roger Goodell's handling of all these controversies.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like this isn't the first time he's let go a bunch of expletives, so for them suspending him for that probably would be a little bit surprising. But he also dared them to suspend him, which when you dare your bosses to suspend you, you can kind of expect a suspension. The only thing about it was he got suspended for 3 weeks, which is one more week than what Ray Rice was initially suspended. So
shots fired.
It had to let that one sink in a little bit, but it's if I was Bill Simmons, though, I probably wouldn't even sweat it because he's still going to be back before the NBA season starts,
he'll be back.
So he's not losing out on that money. I mean, when you suspend these guys, it almost amounts to like a bit of a vacation.
All right, well, good discussion here today, guys. Thanks for watching the Press Box. I'm Nathan LaPierre.
And I'm Brenton Randolph.
And we'll see you next week.